It is 10:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. According to multiple reports, the Nashville Predators are giving goaltender UC Saros an 8-year contract extension with an average annual value of $7.74 million per year. The 29-year-old is set to stay in Nashville, though the deal cannot be officially signed until Monday at the start of NHL free agency. Saros finished 5th in Vezina Trophy voting this week. The NHL draft begins tonight in Vegas. The Predators currently have 8 total picks, beginning with 22 overall. The NBA draft wrapped up on Thursday, and the Los Angeles Lakers picked Bronny James with the 55th pick, creating the first father-son duo on a roster in NBA history with LeBron. Bronny joins Tennessee star Dalton Knecht as part of the Lakers draft class. Also on Thursday, a jury in the U.S. District Court ordered the NFL to pay more than $4.7 billion in damages after ruling that the league violated antitrust laws in distributing out-of-market Sunday afternoon games on a premium subscription service. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What an embarrassment. What an absolute disaster. Have we as a country ever looked so silly?
Yeah, like a train wreck that you just can't look away from.
I truly am disgusted. What happened to the music? Oh, okay. So I'm on my soapbox now?
Go for it. Keep it moving.
Let's do it.
Hard to watch, huh?
Beyond hard to watch.
Yeah.
Beyond hard to watch. Depressing, disheartening, disenchanting, some would say disgusting.
Look at you with the words. The words with this guy.
I am so distraught, another D word, about the state of American soccer, and I do not know what to do.
And now it is a must-win on Monday against a red-hot Uruguay team to even get out of the group stage that in a tournament the U.S. is hosting in Copa America. Deplorable, says Jael on the F&M Bank chat.
Well, that's fitting for the day, one would think. Panama comes from behind to beat the U.S. men's national team 2-1 on Thursday in Atlanta. Nothing else happening in Atlanta. Of course, over the course of the evening, correct? Nothing else going down in the city of Atlanta yesterday?
No, that was the national
of national relevance, national embarrassment to the country. Nothing else?
My story of the day.
What else could we be talking about? Red card in the 18th minute. Tim Weah playing at a disadvantage. It turned into an absolute brawl, and the U.S. loses 2-1. Absolute shame.
That's what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
That's what everybody's all butthurt about, the country being on fire. That's
what I thought.
The Copa America result?
That's right.
Oh. Giles says, SMH, the debate. Yes, Ja, we're doing a bit. You're correct.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
Oh, boy.
Maybe you're doing a bit. I'm pissed about that game yesterday.
Somebody in the F&M Bank chat said, Cameron says that pivot was wild. Yeah, you thought I was going to do politics on you this morning, didn't you? You thought I had you.
Soccer talk.
What do you think they would rather hear less of this morning?
Hey, now.
Because I'll do the debate stuff if you want me to. They gave me a window. They were talking golf, baby. I'll turn this into a 3-hour radio show before this coming November. God help us all. But yes, the U.S. men's national team, the national team, falling in Copa America against Panama 2-1. Yesterday afternoon, before the actual embarrassment of the country, the presidential debate.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
All right, we got it. I feel, do we have to ease up on the Trump drop?
You take that up with Jackson.
I feel like we are just hammering that into the ground.
Is today not the day to hammer it?
I guess so.
Today and yesterday. I hadn't played it for all week. I saved it. Let me have my moment.
Multiple people in the FNM Bank chat say Kirby for president.
I would vote for him over my other two options last night.
Last night was Sports Talk.
It was Sports Talk.
It was First Take on an international level.
Well, there are equal amounts of incoherence and blathering on First Take as there was on the debate desk or the debate stage for CNN. And yes, we are not going to get into the political sphere. We are not going to do that to you. I know you come here for an escape, but
we are going to talk sports.
Guys, come on.
You can't say they didn't talk sports last night.
Let me have a little bit. True, a serious question. How long did you last? Like, to the audience, how long did you last watching last night's presidential debate? Because they did give us a window, and we're going to do a golf bit here in a second, I promise you. But my girlfriend came to the house at 8:07. The debate started at 8. When I answered the door, she said I looked like I was upset. She said, "What's wrong? Like, you know, did the cat get hit by a car? Did your mother die? Did something? Why do you look like this?" And I said, "No, I'm just watching the presidential debate." I mean, you can't do anything but laugh, right? Can you do anything but laugh and make jokes on Twitter between now and next November? Thank God football season is in the middle of all of this, so I can have something to bury my head in the sand for.
We laugh to keep from crying.
Truly. And, you know, there were plenty of laughable moments out of last night, including this back and forth between the former president and the current president about their respective golf games.
Just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21.
I've seen your swing. I know your swing. You're talking about handicaps. I couldn't believe what I was watching at that moment.
I could, you know.
I was shrieking laughing at that moment.
I wish that I could say that I couldn't believe it, but I could. I could absolutely believe everything that I was watching. One of them can't form a coherent sentence, and the other one is lying at all times. So you're just along for the ride at any given point, and they're both probably lying about their golf games.
And the argument about whether or not either one of them can even carry a bag on a golf course. That's what we're talking about here. It's like, it's the handicaps, it's your swing, and whether or not you are physically capable of carrying a golf bag on a golf course.
I mean, it is truly one of the... You and I both have international family members, right? I have my entire dad's side of the family lives in Cairo. Well, not specifically in Cairo, Egypt, but they live in Egypt, okay? I'm half Egyptian. Your family is dispersed across Brazil and Italy. And I hope, for the sake of all of us, for you, me, and everybody else who has anybody else somewhere in the world, that was not internationally broadcast last night. I could not believe how much shame I felt watching the two presidential candidates for the United States of America debate their golf game and not even do it well. That being the highlight of the debate last night, giving us the window to talk a little sports out of what was, I mean, it wouldn't even be, first, you couldn't even put those two on First Take.
Golf shows and podcasts across the world, though, are the winners of last night's debate.
Truly.
Are you kidding me? What is more redeemable at this moment? The state of the U.S. soccer program or the state of this country? I don't know the answer.
Oh, we're going to find out. We got a whole election cycle to go.
Yep, and a group stage game against Uruguay on Monday.
I don't know what truly, Lucas, I don't know this should be a poll, and at Buck Rising is where you can vote on the polls. Which result drove you to drink more, the presidential debate or the Copa America result? Because I've never in my life, I'm not a huge drinker. Like I have a tequila soda rocks every once in a while. When we're doing something or out and about, but like during the week, I don't normally like have a glass of wine or have a beer at home. It's just not what I do. I have never in my life felt compelled to go to the liquor cabinet and pour myself a drink while watching an event the way that I was last night. Never in my life. Anyway, you want to talk Titans?
Let's do it.
The goalie got an 8-year contract. There is sports stuff. We can do this. We can do this today. Despite the country burning around us, we can do this today. So we'll do that. The least there's no graceful way for me to transition into the least talked about Titan of the offseason, but I suppose we'll do so coming up next. What are you trying to send me a message with Paramore this morning? That's what you get?
I think you're giving him a little too much credit.
Well, I absolutely am, because he's now to the point where I've noticed he's mailing it in the music.
yeah, everybody gets to that point.
It makes me insane. It makes me insane.
You love Paramore.
I do love Paramore, but you're going to make me not love Paramore if you continue to play the same Paramore songs in my ear 5 days a week.
Now you're getting Paramore the rest of the show. Congratulations.
I suppose there are worse punishments. So there is no seamless way to move on from the events of last night and talk about the Tennessee Titans, but damned if we won't try. We have had a lot of discussions about a lot of the same people. Yesterday felt like a different conversation than we've had all offseason long, because we really haven't talked about, for example, DeAndre Hopkins very much. He, I think, fits the category of what we're getting ready to talk about now. Who's the least talked about player on this roster heading into 2024 of consequence? So, respectfully to, who's Mason Kinsey, and not just because they're two tiny wide receivers, but Kyle Phillips. Kyle Phillips is no longer a top of the line issue to me anymore. Would anybody in the room be surprised if Kyle Phillips got cut?
No, we talked about it. If he does not win the punt return job, it's hard to envision a roster spot for Kyle Phillips.
Because somebody sent me an article that a bunch of my colleagues at A to Z Sports put together about cap casualties, or surprise cut candidates rather, around the league. And Sam Phelan, who also covers the Titans for A to Z, picked Kyle Phillips. And I said, well, that wouldn't be surprising in the least. Now, this team doesn't have a surprising cut candidate necessarily, so you're just kind of talking about cuts, but I don't think a single solitary soul would be surprised if Tyler Boyd and Jaquan Jackson made Kyle Phillips imminently expendable this offseason. So players of consequence, who are we not talking enough about? I've heard some people bring up, questions about the linebackers, but I do feel like we've paid a fair amount of attention to the linebackers. Now, I will say that we've talked far more. In fact, I don't think we talked to Kenneth Murray other than his introductory press conference.
That's one of mine.
Kenneth Murray?
At least talked about Titans of the offseason. We've hardly mentioned his name on here.
The only time we've brought him up is because I'm perplexed by the contract that he got.
2 years, $15.5 million.
Which is still, among NFL contracts that are question marks, that is one league-wide that I think a lot of people are looking around and saying they paid who, what?
Okay, so why is that so confusing? That's, what, over 7.5 average annual value? That's
for a player who's not been good. How much did Azeez Al-Shaair make last year? A considerably better player than Kenneth Murray has been. I'd be curious because I don't think that it was $7 million a year. Now, I don't know that off the top of my head. Lucas has the answer courtesy of Spot Track, I assume.
He just signed a 3-year, $34 million deal with the Houston Texans. He was here on a 1-year, $5 million deal last year.
Yeah, so Kenneth Murray getting $7 million on a 2-year contract when Azeez Al-Shaair got a 1-year prove it is crazy.
That sounds like a first-round pick tax to me. Why did Andre Dillard get what he got here?
Well, I think anybody could ask that question of it. Nobody else was giving Andre Dillard that contract in full transparency. So I think that's worth paying attention to, honestly, because there is something to what Lucas is saying there. First-round picks will continue to get chances long after they deserve them.
Especially that second chance.
Correct. Isaiah Wilson, they traded him for a pick. Now, it was a 7th-round pick, but Isaiah Wilson, arguably the worst first-round pick in the history of professional football. And I say that with no hyperbole. I believe him to be the worst first-round pick in the history of professional football. He even got something as a former first-round pick, a former SEC high-caliber athlete that the Miami Dolphins were trying to squeeze something out of. But $7 million a year, and I know it's not, I know the cap hit is not $7 million a year. It's still a decent chunk of change for a player who has not proven to have been much as a former first-round pick.
The question is, can they put Kenneth Murray in an advantageous situation? Rand Carthon's talked about it. He talked about it with Ramon, Kayla, and Will on this station. We want him to go hunt. We want him to play freely. So who's playing next to him figures to be very key in that scenario.
I just want to know who else was bidding for his services at that price point. It's like the Dillard thing. Because to date, Titans fans don't have many criticisms for Ran Carthon, right? I mean, what is the biggest criticism that Titans fans are throwing Ran Carthon's way?
Oh,
presently,
the Dillard deal.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If you asked me who had the potential to be the Andre Dillard of 2024, I'm looking at Kenneth Murray 100%. Now, not to that disastrous extent.
Yeah, that's not going to cripple everything you do in the same way a left tackle will.
It's not going to literally take you out at the knees for an entire season if you have an off-ball linebacker that isn't the best player at his position, true. But I think that if you're talking about contracts at the end of the season that you're dissatisfied, I'm dissatisfied with as a Titans fan, I'm probably looking first and foremost at Kenneth Murray. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you got to see how it plays out before you can be dissatisfied with a player that has...
No, Lucas, no, not in the case of a player. Here's the difference between Andre Dillard and Kenneth Murray. No, I don't. Andre Dillard didn't play. Andre Dillard was a bench player. He had played a little bit at a couple of different positions. They tried him at right tackle and guard.
Yeah, he couldn't crack the lineup.
Couldn't play there. Couldn't crack the lineup. There's not that big of a sample size of Andre Dillard as a former first-round draft pick coming into the league. So if you're going to make the argument to me for Dillard, pre-understanding how the Dillard experiment went, then you would say to me, well, we desperately need a left tackle. If the left tackle contract works out, then we got him at an incredible value for a player at that position, even if he's not the best player at that position. And if it doesn't go to plan, we can get out from under the contract pretty cleanly by the end of year one, which is probably the same logic with Kenneth Murray. But Kenneth Murray has played, Lucas. I have seen Kenneth Murray being a starting inside linebacker in professional football, and I am dissatisfied with the sample size. It's much, much larger than Dillard. So when you say that I have to see it, Dillard, you would have been correct if I came with that same kind of criticism. In the case of Kenneth Murray, I have tape.
Yes, you have tape. It is okay to be dissatisfied with what you've seen from Kenneth Murray at the start of his NFL career after being a first-round pick. Like, unquestionably, elite size, elite speed, strength, the traits are all off the charts. Obviously, he hasn't been able to put it together. He struggled in coverage, right? I mean, he struggled in recognition, in keying, in blitzing, and all the things that we talked about with Rashaan Evans. But that doesn't mean that the Titans can't make use out of Kenneth Murray. So I would have trouble with just making a blanket opinion that this is a bad signing before seeing him play a snap for the Titans. If they can put him in a position to succeed, they know what they're getting. They're not bringing in Kenneth Murray to run this defense, to be a team captain, right, to call the plays, however much we overblow the green dot. But Ran Carthon has told us straight up, we don't want him to think about what he's doing. We want him to be able to use that size, that speed, that strength to his advantage and play freely. So it'll be fascinating to see what kind of position Denard Wilson's able to put him in.
I've heard a coach say that to me before, and it was about Dylan Radins. We've got to get him to stop. We've got to help him think less and play more freely.
But you can say that about any position.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just saying, if you're asking me why I'm not talking about it, or if the only reason that I'm talking about Kenneth Murray this offseason is because of the contract, I don't think that's unfair. Kenneth Murray has a role to play. I expect that he will play a fairly large role for this defense. I don't know whether it will be good or bad or average. But what I know of the player, the contract, is a red flag to me. Just as the same, or not just the same, but in a similar vein as the Andre Dillard contract was an immediate red flag for a couple of different reasons prior to seeing him play. So I do think that there has been Kenneth Murray discussion, but it's been less about how he looks on the practice field and more about what he's paid.
Yeah, but that is a position that's very hard to talk about on 7-on-7s and padless OTAs, right? There's a reason that we've honed in on the offensive line because we've watched Bill Callahan go to work with a new crop of players and the quarterback and wide receivers because those are the easiest positions to talk about during a period like OTAs and mandatory minicamp.
Kyle in Cheville on YouTube says, ran past on the trade for Sweat, which is another criticism, or multiple trade offers for Sweat. We have a few details on that, but not all the details on how many different kinds of packages they were offered for what Devondre Sweat ended up being the 39th, 38th.
Point is, talent is going to get a second chance.
Sure.
Kenneth Murray is an extremely talented football player.
Very athletic football player. I mean, he is more athletic Rashaan Evans. But I know how the Rashaan Evans experiment went. And I know Rashaan got arrested for something recently. I think it was a possession. But
And Rashawn got multiple other opportunities.
Yes, he absolutely did. He
was
got
on
a
the
job.
Cowboys last season.
That's what I'm saying. He got a job in Atlanta and then went to Dallas. I believe he was practice squad in Dallas.
He played in 9 games.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Appeared in 9 games.
Appeared in 9 games. All right, so least talked about players of the offseason, Kenneth Murray is your first pick. That's your first pick?
We have hardly discussed Kenneth Murray. That's the first player that came to mind for me.
Okay.
Yeah, player that they need something out of this season that we have hardly discussed.
All right, then I will take Jeff Simmons. We have not talked hardly at all about Jeff Simmons until this week because Jeff Simmons. Yeah, now this is a very small complaint, and I haven't asked any questions over at the Titans about. I mean, if he doesn't practice, he doesn't have to be made available to the media. So I'm not going to get bent out of shape that Jeff Simmons is doing a sit down, probably on his own, on his own time while he's out in Los Angeles hanging out with the Rich Eisen show. I'm not going to get bent out of shape that he spoke to a national outlet after an entire offseason of not talking to us. That's fine. Because we still, we got what we needed out of it. The audience got what they needed out of it. But we have not talked about Jeff Simmons at all. And I do think that it's notable that he's not out there at all. That he's in the facility, that he continues to be in a rehabilitation situation, and however they want to slow play it or slow roll it, and there's no pressure on him to get out there right now. He doesn't need to be out there right now. Nobody has overwhelming concerns about Jeff Simmons not participating in a mandatory minicamp practice in May. But I am going to pay attention to that ankle probably all year long, because it does seem to be of consequence, the lingering issues that he has to manage from the 2022 injury that caused him a considerable amount of duress. I mean, the emotions of that 2022 season were tough, but I'm not used to seeing people like Jeff, professional football players, specifically defensive linemen, giant 300-plus pound rage monsters, breaking down in tears after a game because of the physical pain they've been in to try and win games en route to losing 7 straight. Now, the emotions of losing 7 straight while doing that are what compounded that breakdown a little bit that we had with him in the Jacksonville locker room after they got bounced by with the Josh Dobbs incomplete pass / fumble recovery for a touchdown. But Jeff's ankle is something that I'm probably going to keep an eye on all year long. It's worth asking questions. Do you have to do anything differently with your weight, with your training to manage the situation? Because if I'm not mistaken, the ankle cost him a couple of games last year. And also they were not competitive, so they probably shut him down after a certain point.
Why was he doing kind of the rounds and appearing on Rich Eisen? Do you know, was there anything going on? Was there a promotion or any sort of endorsement?
I assume he's just in Los Angeles, and it's good pub to have Jeff.
Yeah.
Titans don't have. Who is the Titans' biggest star right now? We've talked about this. It's DeAndre Hopkins. The most famous player league-wide that the Tennessee Titans have on their roster is DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
I would be willing to argue that Tony Pollard is second just because he played in Dallas.
I see what you're saying, but I would go with Jeffrey Simmons. I think Jeffrey Simmons.
I think the argument is definitely there for Jeff. But Lucas, what is Jeff? Like, honestly, how many defensive tackles do you name before you get to Jeffrey Simmons on the list? It's not many.
No, it's not many.
But it's an interior. It's the Jarrell Casey argument. Jarrell Casey is a famous player. He's a Pro Bowl player. He's an excellent defensive tackle ahead of his time. Jeff Simmons and Jarrell Casey have some parallels about being an interior defensive lineman as the team's best quote-unquote player and not really bringing a ton of name brand recognition. Chris Jones is the most famous and best interior defensive lineman in the sport. Jeff is competing for 2 after Aaron Donald, and I think you could make a case for a good many interior defensive linemen.
Jeffrey Simmons is obviously much better at his respective position than Tony Pollard is in terms of the best running backs in the NFL.
I changed my answer. It's Snead. Snead is 2. Yeah. But I bet Pollard would be 3.
In terms, you're just talking strictly about most famous.
If you're asking people league-wide who plays for the Tennessee Titans, how many players are they going to name before they name Jeffrey Simmons?
Yeah, you're probably right.
You're
probably right.
Just because he's a Dallas Cowboy, they're on television all the time.
Yeah.
Even if he's the backup. That was a conversation that lasted 6 months. Zeke and Pollard. So my point about Jeff's probably making the rounds because they need somebody to be the face of this franchise right now. They've dumped all their marketing and last 6 years into Mike Vrabel and Derrick Henry. So the two people most associated with the Tennessee Titans are no longer Tennessee Titans. And that's a conversation that we've had before. Now, the least favorite or the least talked about Titan of the offseason, if Lucas is going to go with Kenneth Murray, I'm going to go with Jeffrey Simmons. Those are two starting top-line players. Jackson, do you have one?
I'm going to go Mason Rudolph.
Okay. You don't think there's been enough discourse around Mason Rudolph, the backup quarterback?
No, I feel like we've barely mentioned him at all. I feel like we've talked more about Malik Willis than we have Mason Rudolph.
We have definitely talked more about Malik Willis than we have talked about Mason Rudolph, but I do think there's an explanation for that. There is no disputing that Mason Rudolph is the backup quarterback of this team.
And could play meaningful snaps, which means, shouldn't we talk about him more?
When the time comes to play more snaps, when Malik Willis is no longer on the roster, as long as Malik is physically here, can we all agree that he's probably going to be a bigger talking point? He's more polarizing than Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, but I don't think he should be. Brian Callahan has said, there's going to be a competition there, but Mason Rudolph is this team's backup quarterback.
We logged on to do the Cosell podcast on Wednesday, and I brought up something regarding Malik Willis prior to when we started rolling, and Greg goes, he's still on the team. That's kind of where. So I'll take your point on Mason Rudolph. All right.
How many NFL teams had their starting quarterback play all 17 games last season?
Was it even one?
I mean, what was the stat? Like 65 quarterbacks started
66
games?
in 2022. I believe they either were just shy or matched that number again in 2023. So Mason Rudolph, Taylor H. on the YouTube chat says, well, we got Mason Rudolph and then soon thereafter got Ridley, so he lost some talk time. No, was Ridley signed first?
No. So it was the same day.
Yeah.
It was like early. It was like around noonish when Rudolph signed, and then in the afternoon, Ridley signed.
But we never did like an individualized press conference the way that we did with Pollard and Snead and Ridley with Rudolph. We talked to him one time, like a sidebar at mandatory minicamp.
Yeah, and we were broadcasting at the SEC tournament at Bridgestone when the Ridley stuff dropped.
Yeah.
And that's when the Ridley presser happened. And we had a short show that day because Vol Network coverage was about to start.
That's right.
So, yes, it was the same weekend. And, Titans fans don't want to see Mason Rudolph. The more Titans fans see Mason Rudolph, the bigger of a problem the Titans have on their hands in 2024. Because what's worse than Will Levis showing you that he's not the guy in 2024 with all that he has around you?
You're losing a year and not figuring it out.
Exactly. Him missing 12 games, right?
Marioted.
Yeah.
Marioted.
That's worse. Like getting an Anthony Richardson situation from last year. That's worse than ending the year and not knowing one way or the other. Or then knowing one way or the other, I should say.
I really think that's why teams, even as recently as Marcus Mariota and Winston and Goff and Wentz, teams have stuck with these quarterbacks longer in years past, where this year teams just decided, hey, if we need to reset the board in our quarterback room, we're going to try and salvage what we can for these players. Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, what have you, Justin Fields, try to move them, get something out of it, and let another team try and figure this out while we move on. Now, that's dependent on the quarterback class, and Chicago's not always going to have the luxury of having the first overall pick and the 9th overall pick because Carolina's a dopey organization and doesn't know what they're doing.
Lee's talked about Titans. What about Roger McCreary?
Roger's a good one.
I decided to pull up his NFL.com draft profile, and under the strengths category of second-round pick out of Auburn, Roger McCreary, the cornerback, who's going into his third year in the NFL with the Titans. Strengths: compact with impressive play strength, ability to put the receiver's release in neutral, plays the role of irritant in press man, used his physicality to rough up Penn State wide receiver Jahan Dotson, suffocates receiver space when operating on a vertical plane, highly disruptive, tough face-up tackler who drives through his target. What does that sound like? What kind of traits does that sound like a certain Titans coordinator emphasizes?
Didn't we just make a new rule about asking me questions that you already know the answer to?
Rhetorical question alert. That matches exactly what Denard Wilson has emphasized.
See, how much smoother was that?
In Titans defensive backs. You're right. That's way better. Like that sounds like we're reading L'Jarius Sneed's.
It does.
Right? The strengths of L'Jarius Sneed's
Sneed's a little
game.
bigger. Sneed's pretty long. McCreary famously, the joke was always about the T-Rex arm.
Yeah, right. But
that's not, he doesn't actually have T-Rex arm.
Press man coverage, the physicality, roughing up receivers at the line of scrimmage.
Just makes me think of the Whopper commercial. I just have these tiny hands.
And, that was great. Man, that's a throwback. I forgot about that commercial.
I used to make fun of my buddy all the time because he had Whopper hands, we called him.
But it was easy for McCreary to get overshadowed this year with the moves they made at corner.
Oh, you mean coming into this season?
Yeah, just in terms of how much we talked about him this offseason. We talked more about Chino Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed, and for good reason. But Roger McCreary is a very important piece of this Titans defensive backfield that could fit right into Denard Wilson's scheme.
Now, I'll argue for recency bias there because all we could talk about was Roger McCreary and Imani Hooker because we looked around and said, oh my God, they have nobody else, right? Like the need pre-free agency in that month and a half, all we talked about almost exclusively was wide receiver help, offensive line help, and secondary help because you looked around and said, well, Christian Fulton's not coming back. In all likelihood, he's not coming back. And he didn't. He went on a one-year deal to the Los Angeles Chargers. Trey Avery can't play meaningful snaps again for this team unless there's an injury situation. So I do feel like we talked a lot about Roger and Imani Hooker in the onset, and then when they signed Awuzie first and then traded for Sneed. That then negated any real cause for concern about Roger McCreary and the rest of the Titans secondary, although the safety thing still comes up.
Did we bring him up at all during OTAs? During minicamp?
No.
And 7-on-7s?
Now, part of that is because I was like, we're running things through my prism, right? And the thing I'm almost exclusively watching at practices, or at least was watching in practices. Training camp, it'll be a lot easier to move around, get a much more full picture, but we're almost all exclusively watching offensive line, quarterback, and wide receivers out there. So I do think there's a bit of a knowledge gap. I think you could probably speak to a bit of a coverage gap there generally, because I think so many of us were hyper-focused on the exact same positions because they're the most important, that a Kenneth Murray was undercovered. He does have an important role to play. A Sebastian Joseph Day, undercovered, even though, not the most interesting quote or whatever. He's an interior defensive lineman, but they don't have depth like that. And I'm still waiting to see Tavondre Sweat practice. We did talk a little bit to Elijah Molden, but we have talked so much about trying to replace Elijah Molden that I feel like we have almost exclusively moved on from the conversation about Elijah Molden as a viable option at safety. That is what, for those of you who are impatient about it, about just go get Justin Simmons. You have the money to pay Justin Simmons. Just go get Justin Simmons. One, there's a big story in the NFL that could potentially affect the salary cap, which does also affect our conversation about a D-Hop extension, Justin Simmons, future money, and we'll explain that to you more later in the noon hour. But if the Chargers are just going to sign, how old is Tony Jefferson? Like 34, 33? They're just going to sign 33-year-old Tony Jefferson to come in and play in their defense.
Out of retirement.
Because it's cheaper and you can do that at safety, then why wouldn't the Titans try to give Elijah Molden every opportunity, or somebody already on the roster, every opportunity to save that money and fill a need there? I think Elijah Molden has probably been under-discussed that way because he's been okay. He's been fine. 615-737-1045 is the number. You have an SEC stat of the day?
Vols fans are pissed.
Uh-oh. Find out next. This is the most important time for you to be active, for you to be moving, for you to be mobile, and you can't do that if you're dealing with nagging joint pain. QC Kinetics is here to help folks like you if you're not able to enjoy the summer as much as you want because your knees, shoulders, back, or hips are hurting. Don't suffer any longer. Non-surgical joint pain relief is here at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. Their joint pain relief solutions come with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. Their advanced treatments harness your own body's ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue so you can walk, run, hike, play golf, and move again pain-free. Their advanced protocols have enabled tens of thousands of patients to reclaim their mobility. So stop putting it off and take action now. Live your best life again with QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
So many people trust Two Rivers Ford. Football players, working moms, business owners. Why? Because Two Rivers Ford has been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
So, Vols fans, despite celebrating the national championship on Monday night,
What are they mad about now?
are pissed off.
Okay.
Because the EA Sports college football game is putting out rankings. You seen this? It's been making the rounds.
No.
So,
Lucas.
EA Sports college football, after the Memphis Grizzlies spit in the face of Tennessee fans by drafting Zach Edey,
I've often said this.
EA Sports college football does the exact same thing. They put out rankings of loudest stadiums in the country.
Okay.
Top 25 offense power rankings as far as like what they're rated in the game, and top 25 defense rankings, as well as the top 25 teams based on ratings as well. So
I'm already so over this.
Unsurprisingly, Georgia is number 1 in top 25 teams offense, and they're number 2 in top 25 defense. Ohio State stands to have a phenomenal, one of the more under the radar. We should do a segment later on moves that you forgot about
in college football.
Transfer portal, NFL, whatever, because Caleb Downs was a move that I feel like people will forget about until the season starts. Alabama to Ohio State, the star safety. Anyway, Tennessee left out of the top 25 defense and offense rankings. So, the SEC stat of the day. Take a look at the Josh Heupel era in the last 3 seasons on where Tennessee has finished in yards per play and points per game. Offensively, 2021.
You're smiling because you know you can't even take this seriously.
Tennessee, 18th in yards per play. 2022, Tennessee 4th in yards per play. 2023, Tennessee 18th in yards per play. So in every year of the Heupel era, the Vols have finished top 20 in yards per play. Jackson, you have some context, you said?
Yeah, just finish.
Okay. Points per game. 2021, Tennessee finished 7th in the country. 2022, Tennessee was number 1. In points per game. 2023 took a step back, 28th. So still top 30. Nico Iamaleava comes in, a more talented array of weaponry around him, and Tennessee yet is still left out of the top 25. But you know who is in the top 25?
Don't do this.
Colorado. And this is all very tongue-in-cheek. It's a video game. I don't care what the ratings are.
I don't think that's true. I think the Tennessee fan in you, I think it's roiling deep. You're one of the more, at least publicly rational, but I've seen you. I've seen you in your moments. I've seen you when you lose your mind. I see you when you're screaming at a Tennessee defensive lineman, kill him!
Well, look,
kill him!
You cannot tell me that Tennessee should be left out of a top 25 offense rankings.
No, it can.
In college football.
I can.
No, it can't. Not with the sample size that we've seen in the last 3 years. We just can't.
Not in the sample size of the last 3 years. I don't know anything other than one game, one real game of the quarterback. Of course I can tell you that.
No, well, then tell me the logic of putting Colorado in there. Who?
I cannot explain away
just
Colorado.
Last year finished 97th in yards per play and 57th in points per game.
All right, well, there's an easy explanation for that one, too. Their engagement farming.
On a 4-win football team.
They're trafficking in your clicks. They've got a new video game to promote. They're not worried about selling it because all of you are going to buy it. Are you going? The two of you going to buy the video game?
No, because I refuse to buy the gaming system that is required.
Oh, really?
I have an Xbox One, and apparently this is not.
No, it's not coming to that.
It's not. It's whatever the new Xbox is.
Yeah, I got the PS5. Yeah, I'll be playing.
I have an Xbox strictly to watch YouTube TV and HBO and for my streaming services. I don't play video games. I'm going to go over
dumpster dive for the old PS4.
Yeah, you should. My buddy Jay is going to buy it. I'll be at his house a lot, I'm sure, playing it and grifting off of him. But this is why Tennessee fans should not be taking this seriously. The fact that Colorado is in the top 25 of anything. But Vols fans pissed off as EA Sports spits in their faces for leaving them out. And the top 10 loudest stadiums thing, I'm sorry, but you can't tell me Camp Randall in Wisconsin is louder than Neyland, is louder than Jordan Hare down at Auburn. There's no way. There's just no way.
Have you been?
No.
Well, then, I mean, I see the whole thing. I see it shake every time they do the jump around thing.
The jump around is awesome. You know, I heard Blaine talking about this.
Blaine, no, they're not any good. That may have something to do with the environment.
We'll see what happens with the Luke Fickell year 2. Blaine has played there. He said it was awesome. He said it does not hold a candle to the elite of the SEC environments. But Tennessee fans left out of everything. Russell on the FNM Bank chat.
They're not in the loudest stadiums?
They're top 15. They're outside of the top 10. They're like 13 or 14.
Oh, for God's sake.
Russell in the FNM Bank chat says, y'all keep sleeping on Coach Prime. He will prove the haters wrong. Yeah, winning 6 games for Colorado would be proving the haters wrong. Yet still, people will look at that and say,
see? Who is hating on Colorado? Nobody is hating. Well,
yeah, nobody's talking about. Okay. A lot of people are hating on Colorado.
People are hating on Deion. But, I mean, the novelty faded so fast. Do you feel like there's the same level of outrage about Deion heading into this year? No, of course not. Other than a few tweets his son sent that he may have, co-opted to some guys that transferred on the heels of an athletic story that wasn't very flattering for Deion and his program.
Go ahead. What would you have?
Well, I don't care about the EA Sports
Because
rankings.
arguably more ridiculous is LSU and USC being included in the top 20 of defense rankings in 2024.
Oh, well, that's dumb.
Both teams had historically poor defense. And I don't know what Lincoln Riley over there has shown you, EA, at USC.
Money.
To make you think
They
that
paid them.
the USC is going to have a top 20 defense in 2024. So the point is,
what is
these are very
Lincoln
flawed.
Riley's highest defensive ranking?
Ever?
At Oklahoma or at USC? I can't imagine it's anywhere in the top 25. Like as a defensive unit, just points allowed. I can't imagine they've ever been in the top 20 as a defense in terms of points per game allowed.
Each of the last 2 years have been so abysmal and dreadful defensively at USC.
No, but they were terrible at Oklahoma too.
That was a problem at Oklahoma, but it has gotten marginally worse.
Yeah.
It is insane how much worse it's gotten under Lincoln Riley defensively. Like, you can't tell me that USC takes defense seriously. And he made a change, finally, a defensive coordinator, and we'll see what happens. But very flawed, I would say, ranking system by EA College Football. Jackson, you said you had context.
Honestly, I was just going to do the Colorado thing. They're ranked 8th.
Oh, okay.
On offense.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's no, you have no business putting Colorado in the top 10. Like, yes, could Shedeur Sanders be a top 10 pick? Sure. Name me another player on the Colorado offense besides Travis Hunter. Their offensive line stands to be abysmal. Yeah, they addressed it in the portal. They got the 5-star Jordan Seaton. They'll play him as a true freshman at left tackle. But Edwards, the running back, who was a star last year, transferred out. Like, I can't tell you anybody else on that Colorado roster offensively.
The Colorado, you want to talk about transactions that you've forgotten about in the college football offseason? Colorado's roster just stays in a state of flux, it feels like. Okay, can we move on?
Spit in our face. If EA pandered to Vols fans, maybe more would buy the game. That's a thought. You ever think about that, EA?
They're going to buy it anyway. Go to break.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be a huge hit.
Don't do the go to break thing if I'm going to do the go to break thing. Go to break.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. According to multiple reports, the Nashville Predators are giving goaltender UC Saros an 8-year contract extension with an average annual value of $7.74 million. The 29-year-old is set to stay in Nashville, though the deal cannot be officially signed until Monday at the start of NHL free agency. Saros finished 5th in Vezina Trophy voting this week. The NHL draft begins tonight in Vegas. The Predators currently have 8 total picks, beginning with number 22 overall. The NBA draft wrapped up Thursday, and the LA Lakers picked Bronny James with the 55th pick. It creates the first father-son duo on a roster in NBA history as he joins LeBron. Bronny joins Tennessee star Dalton Knecht as well as part of the Lakers draft class. Also on Thursday, a jury in the U.S. District Court ordered the NFL to pay more than $4.7 billion in damages after ruling that the league violated antitrust laws in distributing out-of-market Sunday afternoon games on a premium subscription service. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
We have actual news to start the second hour? We have an actual reporter to talk about the news with? News in June? My God. What a revelation. Whoa.
Breaking sports news on 104.5 The Zone.
Is it breaking when it was last night in the middle of the presidential debate, I might add?
Well, yeah. I mean, dude, most people watch that clown show instead of checking out the latest goaltender news in the NHL on the wires. But that's what we have Alex Daugherty of the Tennessean to help us with. UC Saros does agree to an 8-year deal with the Nashville Predators. I guess the obvious place to start, other than good morning, how are you, Alex? Always a pleasure to have you on, is are you surprised?
I'm doing great. Can I just clarify that it is not official yet? It cannot be official until July 1. So just to clarify, it's a done deal. I mean, it's basically like it's an 8-year deal, and the reported number is like $61.9 million or something like that. But technically, can't be take effect until July 1. So really, like, it's just kind of a formality. But am I surprised? No. I mean, this has been trending towards this for a while. Now, if you had told me a year ago that this happened, I think I would have been surprised, just because it seemed like Barry Trotz was leaning towards offering his goaltender as a way of building his roster elsewhere. And he said as much at the trade deadline and alluded to it before that too. And then at the end of the season, Trotz came out and said he seemed to be leaning towards signing him. And then, it's kind of trended that way for a while now. And so I think most people are criticizing this deal based on the term length, the 8-year, which is the only the Predators will be able to offer him 8 years. Everyone else could only offer him 7. But the number itself, like the reported average annual value of 7.74 is, I think, a very reasonable number. I mean, getting him under 8 is great, and I think it's a good deal for Nashville. I mean, he's 29. He'll be 38 at the end of this contract. I mean, that basically takes him to the end of his probably the end of his NHL career. I mean, he could play after that, I guess. But so I think it's a good deal. Here's one thing I'll say about it. I think people are hesitant mostly because of how Saros played this season. If they signed this contract after when he was a Vezina finalist or the year before that, it would be no question. People would be like, this is a great deal. It's awesome. You locked up one of the best goalies in the league. But the only problem is, like, he didn't have a great year last year at 29. And that's the only thing I think holding people up is the 8 years and the fact that it comes off of maybe one of his worst careers in the NHL. But overall, I think it's a pretty good deal.
So last year for UC Saros finished 5th in the Vezina Trophy voting as the league's top goalie. and in 350 regular season games, has 333 starts, a 2.63 goals against average, and a 91% save percentage at this point. I guess that the next obvious question, unless there's something that I'm missing here, Alex, is what does this mean for the goaltending prospect that they have in Milwaukee, Askarov, other than he's drinking a coconut drink on the beach somewhere and posting on Instagram?
Yeah. The Askarov part of this is you can't ignore it. And so I had a conversation with Barry Trotz yesterday. This is before all this came out. And I published a story with the Tennessean that basically saying that Trotz has no plans to trade Saros and or Askarov this weekend. And so I think that's obviously the Saros part's not going to happen, but even the Askarov part. So I think that there's been one report that came out, I believe it was Frank Saravalli, who said that the Predators are now in the market for a backup goaltender for next season. My conversation with Trotz did not seem that he was leaning towards that. What I took away was that Askarov would be competing for the number 2 spot in Nashville, and that when they get to training camp in September, that Askarov is going to be right there, right behind Saros, and if he's the number 2 goalie, then he's going to be in Nashville as the number 2, and they'll get someone else to go to Milwaukee. But there's a long way from now until then. I mean, you don't know what can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they sign a goalie on the free agent market, kind of like they did with Kevin Lankinen. But I think Askarov, here, in terms of the long-term issue, so he's 22. He just turned 22. Obviously the bulk of his career now will be shadowed by Saros, but things can change. And I think the league is going towards goalie tandems overall. Boston just had that situation with Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark, who they just traded away. So you can have a situation where you have 2 good goalies and build the value of one of them and then find a way to trade him. So I think that's the goal. But I think ultimately it comes down to Trotz knew what Saros could offer and doesn't know for sure that Askarov is, a Vezina finalist like Saros is every year.
Alex Daugherty of the Tennessean. He covers the Nashville Predators. We're talking about the reported news that UC Saros has agreed to an 8-year extension with the team.
So a lot of the discussion really throughout the playoffs, Alex, was about the value of a goaltender in today's NHL. The way it almost related, at least for us, to the value of a running back discussion in the NFL and the Oilers scoring their way all the way to the final, and then Sergei Bobrovsky playing in pretty much every game. No goalie tandem in Florida. He helps them win the cup. In the end, defense and elite goaltending is what gets Florida over the line when the Oilers kind of come up short in a few of those games. So was that whole discussion kind of a moot point at the end of the day in terms of what it takes to actually win championships?
No, I don't think so. I think it's worth talking about. And here's how I would view it. In the NHL today, you can't win the cup without the horses up front. You cannot win the cup without elite scoring talent on the front of your lineup, with elite blue liners, with just a solid, deep, roster from top to bottom. And you need a goalie that is not just going to blow the game for you. But you can't make the playoffs without a good goalie. You're not going to be in the race for the Stanley Cup if you don't have a good goalie for 82 games. You can't make it through that slog of a season without a goaltender that's consistently stopping pucks for you. I mean, and that is the way that I think the Predators have viewed it for quite a long time, ever since Pekka Rinne and before that with Tomas Vokoun, is you need a workhorse, long-term commitment to a goaltender that can get you in the playoffs every year. And then, if the goaltender gets hot and steals you games in the playoffs, that's fine. But the real issue with Nashville has always been they didn't have the horses up front to get it done. And that's what I think you see is, so Florida, yes, Sergei Bobrovsky was excellent, but I mean, they won that game because Sasha Barkov. They won that game because of Matthew Tkachuk and Carter Verhaeghe and their defense. I mean, that's why they won. And Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers got where they got because of their incredible offense. I mean, McDavid just won the Conn Smythe. Stuart Skinner was helpful in not blowing games for them, but he's not why they got close to that. So I think it's I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but what I'm really saying is you can't make the playoffs without a good goaltender, but you can't win the cup without a good offense.
So when people look at the money assigned to this move, I think there may be a quick reaction to this could hinder the Preds' chances of landing a Mitch Marner, landing a marquee name in free agency to come in and help this offense be more explosive. Obviously, there's a need defensively as well with help around Roman Josi. So how do you stack up the needs moving forward here and maybe how this contract impacts how the Preds can address those needs?
I think it's the fact that the value is a little bit less than we expected helps them. If you think about it like this, and I was doing the math earlier, so Saros this year will make $5 million. That's his previous value was $5 million a year. The contract extension pushes him up to 7.75. So like 2.75 more million a year. The cap goes up by $2 million a year. I mean, so like essentially you could look at it like you're basically kind of paying Saros a little bit more plus whatever you gain in the cap. So you're doing fine on money, and I think that the fact that they were able to trade away Ryan McDonough, the fact that they have soon coming off the books the Ryan Johansson after next year, the Ryan Johansson will come off the books. That gives them another $4 million. Of course, they still have the Duchesne buyout. That still hurts, but I think that they have a solid 15 to 20 million here to work with to add to the forward group, and that's a lot. I mean, people have talked about Steven Stamkos. I think that will. I mean, you can get Stamkos plus some other stuff for that. And it even opens up room for if they do want to go after a Mitch Marner who's at 11, or if they want to go get some big young RFA that they got to pay 10 or 12 to. There's plenty of room. I think there's plenty of room to add to that, and I think that's why Trotz did things like get rid of some players that he knew were going to not contribute but cost a lot of money, and then also the Ryan McDonough trade. So it's going to be busy on Monday for July 1 free agency.
Well, it's going to be a busy weekend. Are you in Vegas?
Yes, sir. I'm here. I'm at an off the strip hotel, but I'm within walking distance of the Sphere. But I have had to Uber my way around Vegas because it is just way too hot to walk around here. It's like 110.
Truly. So the reason that Alex is in Vegas is because the NHL draft is tonight, if you're unaware, and the Preds right now have the 22nd overall pick. What is kind of your expectation? What are the needs that they must prioritize heading into this weekend's draft?
Well, every time I talk about the NHL draft, you have to remind people these are 18-year-olds. You're not going to see these guys for 4 or 5 years, maybe not until they're 22, 23. But there are some excellent offensive talent. And one thing I talked to Barry Trotz about yesterday, I proposed to him this. I said, if there's two players on the board at 22, one is a low ceiling, but like he's going to make it to the league quicker, maybe a bottom 6 guy, but a guy that is dependable, maybe defensive prospect. And then there's a high risk, high ceiling offensive player who could potentially be a top 6 winger. Which would you go with? And Trotz basically said, we're not here to draft bottom 6 players. We want to go get the top guys. And so that's what you'll see. I think he's going to take a swing on a high end, high ceiling player. A couple names that are out there. Michael Hayes, Jet Luchenko is one, Sasha Boisvert, and then there's another guy named Trevor Connolly. Trevor Connolly is a really divisive prospect. There were several off-ice issues. He's fallen in the draft because people are worried about his character off the ice. I would not be shocked if they go after Trevor Connolly because I'm telling you right now, he is a top 6 talent in the NHL if you can handle the off-ice issues. So be looking out for that name, Trevor Connolly, if they draft him.
Well, just out of curiosity, if you could summarize, what are the off-ice issues?
Yeah. So The Athletic put out an article, so I'll give them credit here for putting this all together. If you have a chance to go read it, just go to The Athletic and find their stuff about Trevor Connolly from February, I believe. Basically, there was an incident where he posted a anti-Semitic image to his Snapchat, deleted it, apologized for it, and there was that. And then there was also an accusation that he used a racial slur during a game. He denied that, and that was so. He was 16 when the Snapchat thing happened. I think he was around that same age when the alleged slur happened. And then the other thing with Connolly is he has traveled around a bunch. And anytime you see a player that, spends every year he's at a new team, it kind of throws up red flags. It kind of makes you think, what's going on here? Is he a bad teammate? Is there, so that's another thing that kind of follows him around. He's got some baggage there, like, and stuff that translates into on ice. He's committed some penalties that I think show a little bit of frustration. But again, most of that is he's 14, 15, 16 years old. But again, I just wanted to add that in my conversation with Trotz, like, they seem like they've done their due diligence on a guy like that and have been willing to say, you know what, we're drafting the hockey player, we can deal with the other stuff.
Alex Daugherty, the Tennessean, is where you can read him. He is boots on the ground doing some reporting. Well, maybe not quite boots on the ground. They might melt on the pavement in Las Vegas. But he's at the Sphere covering the NHL draft for the Tennessean, and he's good enough to take some time on the day of to chop it up with us. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Have a good trip.
Of course. Yep. See you guys later.
Alex Daugherty of the Tennessean talking about UC Saros contract extension, free agency, and the NHL draft tonight. That's a interesting topic. I mean, if they draft that kid, I would want to. I've never been to a Preds press conference. Have you?
No, not in person.
I'd be curious to see what the line of questioning is. I don't even know what the media corps looks like for the Preds right now. It's kind of Alex and the Valley team, right?
Monday's going to be really interesting.
Okay, well, we can talk about that after the draft. Coming up next, we have Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. He's going to join us to talk about some off-season storylines that are currently going on. I'd be curious to get Mac's feedback on this lawsuit that the NFL lost and how teams must prepare for a potential decrease in the salary cap. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are always happy to hear this music on a Friday. It means Coach Dave McGinnis is about to join us. Of course, Coach Mack, you can hear him on Titans Radio. You can hear him on the OTP. You can see all the great work that the Titans Radio crew is doing at TennesseeTitans.com. They also have a YouTube channel where they put out some video exclusives. We talked to Mac about the thing that he and Mike Keith did while Mac's sitting in the auditorium while Mike Keith gave the rookies the history of the Titans, which was a really, really well done thing that I enjoyed watching on YouTube. Happy Friday, Mac.
Hey, what's up, Buck?
How we living on this Friday?
Doing good. Just doing a little Mac Over America tour. I'll be back in Las Vegas pretty soon. Got some events coming back for, and then we'll leave again, and then we'll be at training camp, and here we go.
Absolutely. So while you're doing the Mac Over America tour, it seems that the Titans are doing the Titans Over Cabo tour. At least they took, Levis looked like he took the veteran skill position players down to Mexico for a week of training and team building and things like that. Before we talk about the idea of teammates and how they spend their off seasons, Mac, working with third-party coaches and trainers and things like that, has that always been a thing in the NFL when you're talking about players in the offseason?
Yes, absolutely it has. I mean, ever since I've been in the league, which is, as you know, has been a while. And absolutely it has. I mean, used to be, Buck, I know, the talk now about the things that's been thrown out there, probably a bargaining chip by the NFLPA for the 18th game, whenever that comes up in the future, is about, restructuring the off-season calendar. Well, when I first got into the league, I mean, after the playoffs, the first time we ever saw the players was a 3-day minicamp after the draft. 3 days, and then they were gone until we went to training camp. And now we went to training camp very early, right after the 4th of July, and it was a 6 weeks camp. So, this brings me back to the days when I first started in the league. So, there's always something new that comes up, but it's really not new if you've been around long enough.
Sure, full circle in a lot of aspects, right. I would imagine. But when you are working through those things, how, and I'm sure it's specific to the player, to the coach or trainer that you're in communication with, but how consistent is the dialogue with these third-party trainers?
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on which position and what they're doing. I mean, I always did, even as an assistant coach with the head coaches I was with. And then when I became a head coach, and I mean, all throughout my career, I mean, you have a handle on who they're working with and what they're working on. Most of these guys will contact, through the player, the coaches, as to what you would specifically like to work on. But a lot of them, it's so specialized now that, they've got speed trainers, you got flexibility trainers, you got all of those things. But my experience has been, there's always been communication with these guys, depending on the extent and the level of player that they're working with too.
Have you ever had to check one of them?
No, because I mean, you kind of vet them, you vet them a little bit, and you know what they're working on. A lot of these things are their areas of expertise that don't have anything to do with now. The quarterbacks are different. Quarterbacks are different because then you've got guys working on mechanics. Some of them, doing different things. But really, the players are schooled enough now, especially nowadays, that they're not going to do anything or hire anybody because these guys are hired. I mean, they're paying these guys money. They're not going to do anything that's detrimental to what they're doing.
Coach, we see this a lot with quarterbacks. At least we talk about it a lot. Quarterbacks working with coaches during the offseason, working on mechanical stuff. Is there another position that you find this is more common with?
The offensive line. The offensive line, they've always been a group that has gotten together as far as, because there's so many technical things that go as far as being an offensive lineman that people have no idea about if you just generally look at it. I think we've got a pretty good dose of it. That's why I stayed with Bill Callahan all of this offseason, just to watch and see how detailed he was. The offensive linemen have always done some technique works. I mean, you see what's going on here with this tight end. that has gone on just since we've been here. But the offensive line, to me, is a group that has always gotten together and has bandied about trade secrets a little bit all the time.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is here with us on 104.5 The Zone, talking some offseason shop with Mac. I was reading ESPN.com today, Mac, and there was an article from a writer named Bill Barnwell who was identifying cities that could expand if the NFL chose to do so. We've talked before about the idea of the NFL expanding or trying to approach again the idea of international competition or teams overseas and how that seems to be a bit of an inevitability at some point, though nowhere in the immediate future. Have you ever, or I guess, is there a viable option for the NFL to expand in the United States of America?
Yeah, well, I mean, that to me is, I've been involved. When I first got into the league, there was 28 teams. Now there's 32. So I've been around when
Sure.
there's been that type of expansion. I'm not sure in the continental U.S. if there is. I mean, there's talk now, and you know how much is being floated out there, and it's not only floated out there. I mean, it's pretty real as far as the expansion of playing even more games. I think the whole London thing, kind of took as far as having a permanent team, since Jacksonville has gotten that thing settled in clearly that, the over $1 billion renovation they're going to make to their stadium down there in Duval County. I think that's kind of softened that thought a little bit. But in the continental U.S., just knowing what it was, going through those that I've been around in my career, that would be something that would be very far in the future, because things like that just don't happen overnight. And so, with 32 teams right now, I think they've got it pretty much set where they would want, because you've got an even number of teams. It works out mathematically, very easy with the 4 teams in the divisions. I think the next thing I believe that they want to do is get the games evened out to 18. And so I would think an expansion in the continental U.S. would be a ways away.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Mac, from a coach's standpoint, when a news item comes down like yesterday, where a jury ruled that the NFL violated an antitrust laws in the Sunday ticket case that's going on, how thorough is the communication from the league to the coaches, where there are financial implications that may not immediately impact individual clubs, but could down the road, depending on how these things go?
Yeah, well, this thing to me, and again, I just very quickly glanced at that, just as you said, and to me, anything that involves something like that is in the judicial system, especially in with the initial ruling coming down, there's going to be appeals on this.
Yeah.
And so to me, I mean, you're a long way away from any type of resolution on this. So right now, I mean, there is no reason to inform anybody about anything, because it's all very much still up in the air. Even though a ruling has been made, as well as I do, the way the court system is now, it takes a long time for these things to be rectified, regardless of what the initial settlement or the initial thoughts were when it came down. And to me, this would be something that would be handled clearly at the league level first, and then if it ever gets filtered down to the teams, well, then something is real. But right now, that's still in the judicial system.
Coach, we're getting close, a week away from that July 4th mark that you've referenced, that Brian Callahan has referenced as sort of that turning point in the offseason where you start to shift your mind back to football and the upcoming start of training camp. Players with their families getting work in or at their respective vacation spots. I don't know if I've ever asked you, where was Coach Mac's go-to vacation spot during your NFL coaching career?
Well, it depended on where I was. When I was coaching in Phoenix, I always had a place up in Flagstaff where you could go to get in the cooler weather. When I was coaching in Chicago, you would always try to go somewhere that had a little bit more tropical bent towards it. Of course, I've always located and centered. I've got a home base down there in Texas, and so that's a lot of the time where I would spend down there, because all of my family, from a long way back, is still down there. And so as little as you get to see your family when you're a coach moving around, especially if you've got a home base away from where you're coaching, that's where I spent most of my time.
He is the main man, Coach Dave McGinnis. He is on his Mac Across America tour, and I hope that all goes smoothly. Safe travels, Mac, and we appreciate you stopping by. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Thanks, Buck. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys very soon. Thanks, Buck. See you.
He's the main man, Coach Dave McGinnis. Never stops. Mac doesn't, it's not quite Slay energy, but Mac's constantly doing stuff. It has got to be exhausting to be Coach Dave McGinnis.
It does. I couldn't do it. I wonder how many hours of sleep Mac averages.
Oh, that's a good question. Because he's probably still got it wired in him, the fact that you wake up at 3:30 to go to the facility by 4:30 and you're in meetings by 5:30, right? That probably doesn't ever leave you, or at least maybe doesn't get that much less extreme over time. That's a good question. Maybe we'll ask him next week.
Some people are wired so different in that way. I've never been able to relate to people that can get 4 hours of sleep a night and be functional humans.
Well, the idea that I'm a functional human is
up for debate.
Yeah.
But
I'm often pretty subhuman at times, so that probably adds up.
If I get less, maybe we put it to a poll. How many hours of sleep do you absolutely need a night? If I get less than 7, I'm worthless and my day is ruined.
Oh, I was just going to say you're, AI and all that stuff.
Me?
Yes.
That's how I function without sleep?
Yeah, you're a robot. No emotions other than anger.
Whoa.
I'm just kidding.
All it took was a whoa to back him off of that.
Nope, I'm standing on it.
You already backed off of it.
You're the little angry guy from the new Inside Out movie.
I did see the first one.
I've seen the first one. It was great.
The first one is excellent.
Kids' movies are making a comeback. Like, they're making quality kids' movies. The Luca movie was really good. Moana was really good. Inside Out was... The Soul movie was very good. I don't know if...
I haven't seen any of these.
Very introspective. But, yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, we like to say that we grew up with the best generation of, like, The Lion King and, Lilo and Stitch.
Every person ever as they get old. Like, and then you go back and watch some of this crap, and Star Wars looks like hell. I don't care how much you love the original
I disagree.
ones.
I think those movies have aged fantastically.
Yeah. And Toy Story. Don't forget Toy Story.
Well, Toy Story perpetually slaps. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Kent says 5 hours, and I'm good on sleep.
No way.
He also adds that Mac has said that he averages 6 hours of sleep, Coach Dave McGinnis. Vidal says Buck's got some Chia Pet action going on this week. No, that's just the flow. What are you going to do about it? Inside Out, a treasure and fairly accurate to our current understanding of neuroscience. Those are the fun ones when they can actually teach you something of consequence. Like how many people knew anything about anemones before Finding Nemo? Like at a base level, like the general like kid science stuff. This was like Bert trying to get us to go, or Bert going without asking us for feedback on the Adventure Science Center, which is great in downtown Nashville, or right south of downtown Nashville. If you haven't been, except if you go to the Adventure Science Center, you understand that it is for very small children and not for people Bert's age, and he took Cheyenne on a date there.
We should go.
Show field trip.
What is it with you? You two don't get enough time around me. Why do you want to spend more time together?
I think it would be funny to watch you interact with some of these exhibits at the Adventure Science Center.
As long as there's not kids, I'm good. If there are no children, I'm great. If there's children in the place, then it's a disaster for me.
How do you do, child? We could stand to do something educational.
It's so bad, Lucas. It's so bad. My buddy just had a kid, and the kid comes into his son is, I don't know, less than a year, maybe 6 months. And my buddy owns the gym that I work out at. So he brings, the kid comes to the gym all the time. And, he can't talk. It's a baby. It's drooling or whatever. And like the most that I had to contribute today was, damn, Booth, that kid's got a big head. That's all I had to say to the baby.
I imagine this baby is crawling on the gym floor and you reach out your hand for a formal handshake.
Do you when you interact with kids, do you do what you do with like Titans players below the age of 25 and like try to act edgy and cool by using cuss words in interviews? I feel like you would do that with like 8-year-olds as well.
Edgy and cool.
Yeah. Wearing like their Bonnaroo t-shirt and shades.
Hello, fellow
bumping mics
children.
with Jaquan Jackson.
Did you call the kid an it this time like you did with Hunk's child?
I called him a stud, which felt like, what's up, stud? And then I moved on. I don't
Progress.
know, which is a 6-month-old, and he can't do anything but throw upon himself and drool at me. So that's what we're working on at this point in time. 615-737-1045 is the number. There is a major story. So we brought up the antitrust laws that the NFL is currently being sued over and the results of a Sunday ticket case. We're going to get into some details because there are some football implications of that down the road later on. But coming up next, what do I have to give away? What is in the nebulous prize bucket on this Friday?
I reached around in there and I found 2 more tickets to Post Malone.
You reached around? Go to break. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is a great resource for you if you're somebody who's dealing with erectile dysfunction. A lot of dudes do. It's okay. Don't freak out. Don't feel negative about it. And the worst thing that you can do is put it off and hope that the situation resolves itself. What you need is the best support system in place. And the best support system is the Tennessee Men's Clinic because they've been treating guys who have dealt with ED and who are looking for weight loss solutions for over a decade. They have helped guys with ED and weight loss, and they now even offer aesthetic enhancements and cosmetic procedures. Their ED and weight loss treatments truly change lives, and with no surgery, they are seeing success rates as high as 90%. They specialize in seeing guys who think they're out of luck want to regain hope that they can be successful in the bedroom and beyond. They even offer same or next day appointments. It is time to feel amazing and hit your goals this year. So stop thinking about it and call the Tennessee Men's Clinic. 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com and book an appointment today. 615-737-1045 is the number. It is Friday. It is time for you to give us your feel good. What made you feel good this week? It's Friday Fire for an opportunity to win a pair of Post Malone tickets to his upcoming concert at Nissan Stadium this October. It is going to be an event, I'm certain. I will be in Buffalo, so I'm going to have FOMO. Those of you who get to attend, it should be a great time. 615-737-1045 is the number. Help us feel good. Give us some feel good on this Friday after that disaster of a presidential debate made us all deeply, deeply depressed. Everybody could use a little Friday Fire. I will start the bidding. So, of course, you saw that LeBron James had his son drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers last night. Bronny is now with the Lakers. Did you see this particular tweet that I sent in from Stephen Che? Is it Stephen Che at Barstool?
I think so.
Yeah. It's a little in his profile. It says last name pronounced Che. Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. He tweets, after Bronny James has been drafted by the Lakers, it has been discovered that LeBron James is sleeping with his newest teammate's mom.
I did see this.
That's my Friday Fire, because not only did he tweet that, of course, tongue-in-cheek, because LeBron's teammate is now his son. LeBron's teammate's mom is, of course, LeBron James's significant other. So, yes, that's the bit.
Wife, yes.
Yeah, well, I don't listen, I just say
long-time wife.
I say significant other now when I don't know, because that's the safest possible thing, all right? Because then you get into all kinds of hurt feelings and stuff like that. I don't want it, all right? I don't want anything to do with it. I don't care how long you've been married. I don't care how long you've been dating. I don't care how long you've been together. You are somebody's significant other.
It was remember when Bob Kraft did this, when he was talking about why they didn't get Calvin Ridley?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, his girlfriend wants to live in the South or something, when Calvin Ridley is very much a married man.
Very much. Long time. Been with his significant other for a considerable period of time. Just say significant other, and you will never go wrong. But it's not just my Friday Fire that Stephen Che tweeted out that LeBron James is sleeping with one of his teammates' mothers. It is the fact that got aggregated by outlets that did not bother to vet that it is being alleged that LeBron James is sleeping with one of his teammates' mothers. Yes, I love the internet. It is as dumb as what we watched during the presidential debate last night. It is reflective of us as a country, and it makes me sad. But also, it's my Friday Fire.
Oh, no. I did not realize that people were running with it
I saw
like
an
that.
aggregated now. It wasn't The Onion. I had to double check, but there was a couple of them floating around today.
Man. Oh, and she had Savannah James, LeBron's wife, Bronny's mother, had fun with it on social media, too. She's reposting that tweet on her Instagram and stuff. That's awesome. My Friday Fire, Matthew Tkachuk and Jason Tatum. Champions, Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup, Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics winning the NBA Finals. They were high school friends, classmates, coming up in St. Louis. It's been really, really cool to see all the pictures of Tkachuk and Tatum seeming like they were legitimate friends in high school. Pictures of them on the bus together with their arms around each other as 14-year-olds. Yearbook pictures at Chaminade High School, I believe is how you say it, the school they went to in St. Louis. And now both champions, both star players on their respective championship teams. The city of St. Louis just this year has produced a star of the Boston Celtics, the NBA champs, one of the stars of the Florida Panthers, the Stanley Cup champs, and the head coach of the national championship winning Tennessee Volunteers, Tony Vitello, who is from St. Louis. Great week for the city of St. Louis, except for St. Louis actual sports teams who do not have a championship this year. But my Friday Fire is seeing all the stuff from Tkachuk and Tatum being high school, childhood friends and classmates growing up and now crushing it in their respective careers.
I'm going to go with the Vols. Did you guys see this picture that was spreading around there of Condredge Holloway throwing out the pitch at Tony Vitello's first game at Tennessee?
Yeah.
How many people could you count in the stands? You could probably do it on two hands.
Maybe 20.
Maybe. And just to see how far the program's come, this week winning a national championship, that's my Friday Fire.
$100 million baseball stadium coming to town, all the good vibes.
Waiting on that Tony V extension, by the way.
But the Texas head coach has already been hired.
Yes.
So you can't get schlossed.
Oh, speaking of that.
He's still
Did you
in the
see
news.
that?
No, wait. Save it for later because we got to give away some Post Malone tickets. 615-737-1045 is the number. Give us your Friday Fire. We have the attention span of small rodents around here. It's unbelievable. Joe is in collection management. That sounds interesting.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm everybody's favorite guy, you know.
I'm certain.
Sounds like a Tony Soprano
I was going to
situation.
say, is that code for mob, Joe?
You're correct. You're correct. My Friday Fire is the Vols winning, but also, and this is a couple of weeks old, but I just read it about Tony V sending the manager to Northern Kentucky the NCAA banner for his sportsmanship and the way he approached his position there with Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Tell Greg McElroy, you know, he's not a bad guy.
Well, Greg McElroy had to take an apology tour. We appreciate the call, Joe. Stay on hold for the opportunity to win the tickets when you give us your submission. Thank you very much. Forgive me if I mispronounce this. Is it Janelle?
Yes.
How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
We're great. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm a nurse in Nashville, and I worked a bunch of overtime the past couple of weeks and had really great patients, had a great experience. I made enough money to get my 16-year-old his first used truck. So we're really excited.
Well,
he's excited, too.
Very cool.
Congratulations. That is really cool.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm just really excited for him because he's a good kid. So good athlete, good grades in school, and he deserves it.
Well, and also
really
excited for yourself, no, because you don't have to cart him around all over the place.
Exactly.
That is the Friday Fire. We appreciate it, Janelle. Stay on hold. John is up next. Hey, John.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What you got for me, buddy?
I got Tennessee Titans, Will Levis, and his wide receiver crew. Pretty much seems like they were on vacation, but practicing in Cabo San Lucas this past week. I thought that was pretty awesome to see.
Appreciate it, John. Yeah, I know a lot of Titans fans are enjoying the sights and sounds that they're getting, mostly from Calvin Ridley's Instagram, it would seem.
Yes.
Is where the content is being produced.
A ton of them are out there,
Ridley.
though.
I saw everybody but Burks, who's having a kid here in the very near future. So I assume that's probably cool. I don't know that for a fact, so I don't want to misspeak. But I did not see Traylon, and I assume that's why. And then I don't think I saw Tony Pollard in any of these social media posts.
Tajay Spears definitely out there.
Yeah.
Chig, Wiley, D-Hop.
I think all the vets are there. Save maybe Burks and Pollard. Let's go with Wes, who's up next. Hey, Wes.
Hey, guys. My Friday Fire is I have never seen a man as excited as the other night when I'm watching the Tennessee baseball game. I think it was game 3. And my wife, who always sees me watching y'all during your show, leans over to me and says, "Is that Tennessee fan that's going psycho crazy happy Buck Rising?" My wife, who's a Buck Malone fan, by the way. And I was like, I'm pretty sure he didn't go to the game, but let me check. And sure enough, I see on your Twitter, Buck, you somehow made it to Omaha and lost your mind.
I wish that was me, because it would have been fun, Wes. But the guy who it actually was, and forgive me, I can't remember my doppelganger's name, but he did call into the radio show on Tuesday to verify that we are two, in fact, different people. So it's me, that guy, and Andrew Luck who get mistaken for one another all the time, unfortunately for me. Jody is our last submission for Friday Fire. What you got, Jody?
Well, this is kind of personal for me. I listen to you guys all the time, but this Friday Fire is for my mother. It just makes me feel good to say this. Back in April, she was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic and liver cancer, and since then she's been taking chemo. She's been getting a lot better. She's very, very paranoid because she's losing her hair, but I tell her every day how beautiful she is. So it's just the fact that she's getting better, she's getting moving around, it just makes me feel good to say this. I just felt like I need to share it with you guys, so I appreciate it.
Well, we're so happy for you and for your family and, of course, for your mother, Jody. Thank you so much, and please send her our best. That is excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Oh, we got to give it to Jody. Are you kidding me?
Well, yeah. That's how that works. That's how that works. That is the best news of any of the news that we did get. So yes, that is the Friday
doesn't come
Fire.
close.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, Jody.
So
awesome,
congratulations.
Awesome.
Maybe, if mom's up to it, maybe you can take her to the concert.
Take her to the concert.
You do what you want with the concert. Now. Don't hang up. Don't hang up if I've already given away the Post Malone tickets, because you know what else I have? I've got chicken, all right? I've got a $75 gift card to Hattie B's for a Feed Your Flock package. So second place amongst the two of you.
Oh, I wanted to give it to Janelle, but she dropped off after buying her 16-year-old a truck. How about John talking about Levis and his wide receivers getting work in? in Mexico.
Cabo, yes. All right, so chicken for John, Posty for Jody, and everybody's happy. Call us every Friday at 11:45 for Friday Fire, and you could have the chance to win great prizes. Coming up next, the NFL takes a massive financial hit. How could it affect your football team? I'll tell you next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. According to multiple reports, the Nashville Predators are giving goaltender UC Saros an 8-year contract extension with an average annual value of $7.74 million. The 29-year-old is set to stay in Nashville, though the deal cannot officially be signed until Monday at the start of NHL free agency. Saros finished 5th in Vezina Trophy voting this week. The NHL draft begins tonight in Vegas. The Predators currently have 8 total picks, beginning with 22 overall. Also on Thursday, a jury in the U.S. District Court ordered the NFL to pay more than $4.7 billion in damages after ruling that the league violated antitrust laws in distributing out-of-market Sunday afternoon games on a premium subscription service. Nashville Soccer Club plays host to Eastern Conference leaders and Supporter Shield leaders Inter Miami on Saturday at Geodis Park. Miami will be without stars Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez due to international duty. Kickoff is at 7:30. Pre-game coverage starts here on The Zone at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Friday. Hallelujah. You only have to deal with us for 57, not even 52 more minutes. And then we can turn you over to the capable hands of Blaine Bishop. 615-737-1045 is the number. Jump in if you want. We'd be happy to have you. Lucas, Jackson, and me. You also have YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch with which to live stream this nonsense if you so choose. We'd be happy to have you there too, like the video on YouTube if you're hanging out. The NFL has never taken as big as a financial loss as it is set to take based on a ruling from a jury in a U.S. district court after they ordered the NFL to pay more than $4.7 billion in damages after ruling the league violated antitrust laws in distributing out-of-market Sunday afternoon games on a premium subscription service. Around the room, not a one of us has ever paid for Sunday Ticket, which is what they're talking about here. This is the Sunday Ticket case, where the NFL has been accused, and now found guilty, according to a jury, of price gouging whomever, whichever of you out there, has paid for Sunday Ticket in your lifetime. So it's not just the $4.7 billion. That's $4.7 billion in damages to the residential class and $96 million in damages to the commercial class. Since damages can be tripled, according to ESPN, under federal antitrust laws, the NFL could end up being liable for $14.39 billion in damages. Huge figure. Now, if you heard Coach Mack earlier, you heard his bit about this is going to be appealed. You already know that the appeals are prepared. Both sides knew that this was going to come down the way that it did, and so now the appeal process begins. The lawsuit covered 2.4 million residential subscribers and 48,000 businesses in the U.S. who paid for the Sunday Ticket package out-of-market games from 2011 through 2022, specifically on DirecTV. It claims, the lawsuit does, that the league broke antitrust laws by selling the package of Sunday games at an inflated price. Subscribers have also said that the league restricted competition by offering Sunday Ticket only on a satellite provider. So it's not just that they price gouged you, it's that they only offered it to one specific outlet and created a monopoly on their product as opposed to creating a competitive marketplace that benefits the consumer.
So if the NFL does have to end up paying the damages, it could cost each of the 32 teams, of course, including the Titans, just under $450 million.
Now, normally, that sound would mean the lawyer's here. And we called Dan Lust. We texted him. Lucas, what is the text that you received back on this particular case from noted show attorney, even though we don't pay him, even though he's good to respond to us at any given point, and the fact that he did not come on this show this very one time in the past almost 4 years of us doing this. What did he say to you about this case?
I have told Dan, I have told him for what it's worth that he needs to come to Nashville and let us know when he does, because we owe him a beer or several. But I asked him to come on. I said, I'm sure you're getting a ton of requests about this. Would love to hear your perspective. Offered up some times. He said, I've gotten a few requests, but it's a pretty complicated lawsuit. I haven't been following it as closely. I don't think I'll be able to get up to speed in time for tomorrow.
Oh, good. So it's just you and me working through the legalese when the lawyer, the trained professional, is saying, I'm going to need a little bit more time to chew on this one, boys.
So I said, we'll handle it.
And he said, oh, good. So, Dan Lust is not here. The three of us have never subscribed to Sunday Ticket. I am certain that there's somebody within the sound of my voice on this massive what did Hutton used to call it, a blowtorch of a signal for 104.5 The Zone, and not just terrestrial radio, but digitally on the app and on the YouTube and live stream comments or whatever. Somebody within the sound of my voice has paid for Sunday Ticket between the years of 2011 and 2022. So I'm curious to know, for the audience, has there been any communication from the people who are currently filing this suit? If you are a part of the class action, the residential class, if you are a business owner, a bar owner who has paid for Sunday Ticket. We were talking to our buddy Josh Griffin when he was managing Tin Roof across the street from us here off Demumbrian. And the idea that how much they were having to work through the process of Sunday Ticket not being a thing anymore because DirecTV, and I don't believe DirecTV still carries the Sunday Ticket package because of this whole situation. Not specifically just because of this, but I think
through 2022.
Yeah. So that was the end of that. And so just having to see how bar owners and restaurant owners were having to adapt to Sunday Ticket not being on DirecTV, and how much money they've paid exclusively to DirecTV as a result. I'm genuinely curious, because this has not been our personal experience. Obviously, I've been at games for the last 8 years. I don't know what happens on television unless I go back and watch it. Lucas has been doing Titans radio now. This is your third season?
This will be my fourth
season coming up with Titans radio. So this is not something that certainly in recent history you've had any experience with either.
No. I mean, I remember as a kid growing up in Birmingham, Alabama doesn't get Titans games locally. I mean, it's getting whatever the number one CBS game is.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Birmingham, like when I was growing up, it was very, very hard to watch the Tennessee Titans on cable TV in my house. So if my dad wasn't taking me to Buffalo Wild Wings.
How far is Birmingham?
3 hours. I'm driving there the second we get off the air today for a wedding, and it's going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes to get there.
That's terrible if you're the Titans marketing team. Jesus.
I used to lay in my bed with a radio in my room and listen to Titans radio because that is how I consumed Titans games if I wasn't going to a bar. The lawsuit was originally filed by a bar. The Mucky Duck Sports Bar in San Francisco originally filed the suit in 2015. It was dismissed in 2017. And then 2 years later, the Ninth Circuit, that has jurisdiction over California and some other states, reinstated the case. And here we are years later.
The statement from the league. We are disappointed with the jury's verdict today in the NFL Sunday Ticket class action lawsuit. We continue to believe that our media distribution strategy, which features all NFL games broadcast on free over-the-air television in the markets of the participating teams and national distribution of our most popular games, supplemented by many additional choices, including Red Zone, Sunday Ticket, and NFL Plus, is by far the most fan-friendly distribution model in all of sports and entertainment. Now, I'm willing to accept that it is the most fan-friendly distribution model in sports and entertainment because it is the most, sought-after commodity. And I think that in of itself has made the NFL have to put together a distribution model that is better than all of the leagues. Now, then price gouging you for the best distribution or the most fan-friendly distribution model is not the point of the exercise, right? To make it the most fan-friendly possible, it has to be at a reasonable price. And the league, this is the pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered type of stuff that Mark Cuban was talking about, but he, was talking about it in the context of this will kill the league. Now, this isn't going to kill the league, but it will have an impact on the salary cap if the appeal process doesn't hold up the way that the league wants it to. Because if the NFL, as a league, as an entity, is required to pay out whatever the sum ends up being, which right now could be as high as 14.39 billion with a B. That would be evenly distributed across all 32 teams. So, if you have a cost evenly distributed across all 32 teams, what is that most likely to impact? The salary cap. I don't know that the salary cap is going to take a dip. The last time, and maybe I don't know if it's the only time that the salary cap has gone backwards when it took that $17 million haircut in the COVID, or I guess in the post-COVID season in 2021.
I think that's the only time it's gone backwards.
But we have just operated, and teams have operated under the assumption that the cap is going to continue to rise, because why wouldn't it? Football is America's most popular sport. Streamers are only going to pay more than television networks have been for football, so the salaries are only going to go up. The cap is only going to go up until you have something like this. Now, is that immediate? No. There's an appeals process that has to play out. The legal system is not known for its brevity, so we're probably going to be waiting on the long-term impacts on this specific to teams for a considerable amount of time. But I would pay attention to how it impacts, or just generally to the story, because there is the potential that this could be the kind of bubble bursting in the NFL that we talked about not seeing a viable path towards, like the quarterback bubble. Can you imagine if Jacksonville has to take a salary cap haircut after paying Trevor Lawrence $55 million a year? I mean, even the Titans. How much money do the Titans have tied up in future contracts right now? Cushenberry, Ridley, Lloyd, I'm sorry, I already said Lord Cushenberry. L'Jarius Sneed. The money and the salary cap specifically, there is reasons to think that it will continue to rise in the NFL. But if every club is having to distribute $14.39 billion across the teams evenly, then it's fair to expect they're going to have to rework the math on the cap.
I want to go back to what you said when I mentioned that Birmingham did not get Titans games. Real quick, Hunk texted us. He said Birmingham, he worked in Birmingham. He lives in Alabama. Joe Hunk said Birmingham is a Falcons market, so always got Falcons games or the national CBS game. So what do you, when you said that's a bad job by the Titans marketing team?
No, it's not a bad job by them. It is terrible for them that they cannot get their team broadcast in a market 3 hours away.
Okay, so my question was going to be, what the hell could the Titans marketing team do about that?
No.
There is Titans radio in Birmingham, like Jocks 94.5, our sister station, Cumulus Media, where Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik have the show that we played audio from this week, is a Titans radio station, yet there is not Falcons radio in Alabama. There was when Julio Jones played for the Falcons, and his hometown of Foley, Alabama, was a Falcons affiliate until he came here and they switched to Titans radio. Right. So I'm always curious about those things, about how Birmingham is designated as a Falcons market.
Well, just how they distribute the state of Alabama when none of them care about any of the pro teams. They just care about the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, that's true.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to weigh in. And again, if you are an audience member that has had an experience with Sunday Ticket or has been informed about the process of the lawsuit at any point, I'd be curious genuinely to hear from you. Perhaps Phil in Franklin has some context.
Yeah, hey guys. So actually I told your screener that I didn't remember when we started, but it was the year after the AFC Central got, reworked, because I was the season ticket holder of the Titans just so I could see the Steelers come to town once a year. And once that ended, I sold my tickets and bought DirecTV. So I had it for probably a good 10 or 12 years. It was the price increases were exorbitant, I thought, but, much to my wife's dismay, I continued to pay for it. The biggest problem would be you're watching it, it's storming outside.
Yeah.
You'd lose the games, and they weren't really and saying you'd have to call them and kind of have a little, bleep session with them to get anything reduced on your monthly bill. But I had not gotten any kind of letter from any law office or whoever's doing the class action.
Well, I appreciate the call, Phil. So Jackson said in my ear that the last year of the AFC Central was 2002, for reference, 2003.
That would have been the first year of the South.
2002 is the first year of the South?
Yes, because when the Texans came into the league, the Central was split.
Was realigned?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So, I'm sure there's a lot of people whose significant others were dismayed at the idea that their significant others continue to pay the exorbitant price ranges or price raises for Sunday Ticket. But the NFL is being sued, and we will see what the results of that bear out after the appeals process. There is a news story that is, very famously attached to this show because yesterday we declared ourselves for which NBA team?
Lake Show.
The Los Angeles Lakers, because Dalton Connect slides to 17, gets taken by Los Angeles. Are we sticking with that now that Bronny James is with the Lakers too? We'll talk about nepotism in professional sports, and should LeBron be getting buried for his nepotism with the Lakers? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. How much power is too much power for the best player on your favorite team? That's a question that I know a lot of Jets fans are having to answer with Aaron Rodgers. It's what any fan base that has had LeBron James on their team in the last 2 decades, or maybe in the last decade since the Miami move, has been asking themselves about LeBron. Is LeBron James still the best player on the Lakers, Jackson?
I'm going to say yes. No.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis is better than him.
Okay.
Go Lake Show.
So, when I see this bit of TV from ESPN's NBA draft coverage last night, it immediately piques my attention. This is Bob Myers, the former general manager of the Golden State Warriors, the team that, or the executive that put together the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green teams. He's now working for ESPN. If you haven't been watching their NBA coverage, he's pretty good. I enjoy his analysis. His feedback last night, prior to Bronny James being drafted in the second round, is something that I think you need to hear.
But Bob Myers, you promised at the show that 30 minutes in, you would have an update for us on Bronny James, and we're 56.
Well, I don't get a chance to say anything.
So would you like to say it
Stephen
now?
A. talks a lot. There's other stuff going on.
Break some news. Stop whining.
Yeah, it sounds like
exactly. Listen, exactly. Okay, fine. I will say
15 seconds.
Right now, Rich Paul's calling teams, don't take Bronny James. He's telling them, do not take him, okay? Saying, don't take him. If you take him, he's going to Australia. So he has a plan and he has a place.
But he's not telling the Lakers.
I don't know if he's telling one team that.
So the agent, Rich Paul, who's one of LeBron James's best friends, Clutch Sports Management, they run an agency together. They represent many, many athletes. I think DeAndre Hopkins is a Clutch Sports athlete. The agent, Rich Paul, is telling teams that are not the Lakers, do not draft LeBron James's son or we will send him to Australia. So there's that. It happens, not just in the NBA, not just specifically with this, but with representation and organizations. Eli Manning, probably the most famous one, although that was more Archie running Arch is the son. Archie is the dad. That's more Archie Manning kind of helping his son control his NFL future to his benefit. Absolutely. We know that geography matters so much in the draft process, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, what have you, for how these players end up succeeding. Now, Bronny is very specific because dad wants to play with his son. Dad wants to be a teammate with his son in Los Angeles and finish his career. LeBron is probably going to retire after this because this is what he's been holding on for. He said this publicly. Now, I don't know how big a difference Bronny James being on the Lakers is going to make. But it is going to be a circus. It's always a circus with the Lakers. And LeBron is the ringleader. He's Barnum and Bailey, right? He's P.T. No, I guess Barnum and Bailey are two people, but he's P.T. Barnum. He's running the show. Dan Hurley doesn't want to take the job for a variety of different reasons, but probably some of it. And can we recklessly speculate a little bit, please? At your convenience. Thank you. I'm recklessly speculating that Dan Hurley did not want to take a job that LeBron James is actually his boss, as opposed to the other way around. How much power is too much power for your team's favorite player?
Imagine telling Dan Hurley, no, we're drafting Bronny.
Yeah, no, but not the person who hired you telling Dan Hurley that we're drafting Bronny. LeBron saying, no, Dan, we're going to draft my son.
But the person who hired you has to tell Dan Hurley that LeBron James is going to tell you that we're drafting Bronny and that's what we're doing.
However the chain of command works, it's the coach who doesn't get to pick the player.
Mm-hmm. Like, just so you know, this is what we're doing.
This is how this is going to go.
Don't think he'd take to that well.
I don't assume so, but again, I put a lot of value on a college head coach turning down, or a lot of importance on a college head coach turning down an NBA job, especially the most famous NBA job. So anyway, we haven't had this experience in Tennessee, right? There have been no players who have leveraged their power for better circumstance or more control. Can you think of somebody who's even got close? There have been there's been precious few training camp holdouts even with the Titans. I can't think of a contract situation that's been like publicly kind of nasty between the Preds and anybody that they've signed. Nashville SC, it's too early, one would imagine, for there even to be that kind of controversy where, is Hani Mukhtar out here running the show for the Nashville SC? I don't think so.
No, we have not had a situation like that you and I would remember.
Sure.
With the Titans, Preds, or Nashville Soccer Club.
But there is a situation like this in New York right now with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the most powerful player in football. There are not many Aaron Rodgers out here, as an example, legitimately running an NFL organization. Now, there's not many quarterbacks as good as NFL Rodgers who, when you bring them in, you're running the Aaron Rodgers offense. You're not running the Nathaniel Hackett offense, or the Nathaniel Hackett offense is the Aaron Rodgers offense. That's how this thing works. I'm always curious to see how fans react to this kind of stuff, though. Because what's the charge that LeBron is immediately hit with yesterday when Bronny gets drafted? Nepotism.
Of course.
Nepotism.
It's like, for most people, how are they supposed to, not me, because I consider Bronny an elite prospect and think that this would have happened regardless. The Lakers are an honest organization that they're ahead of the curve, is what I think. But for most people, they look at the Bronny James pick and the J.J. Redick hire, and they say, how the hell am I supposed to take you seriously? How are you supposed to tell me that you're in the pursuit of winning championships when this is what you're doing? When you're using a second-round pick so that LeBron gets to say he played with his son and get to be the first father-son. How can you look me in the eyes and tell me that the primary goal in everything you do is to win championships when you do that? Like, you can't. That would be the opinion of most people, not me.
Go Lake Show.
Thank you. Well, you can. Because nepotism is everywhere. At every level of sports where the business of sports is conducted. You can talk about this with the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans brought Dean Pease out of retirement. What was one of Dean Pease's conditions? That his son, Matt Pease, come with him. Matt's prior experience was as a high school football coach. And that's fine. You can get opportunities however you get opportunities. Art Smith is regarded, I remember when he got the job as the Atlanta Falcons head coach, there was a whole controversy that I want to say that Bomani Jones was kind of at the center of.
Yeah, Bomani had a tweet that said something about Art Smith's resume reeks of, nepotism, or ignoring how Art actually came up in the business of coaching.
Sure, but does Art Smith get to exist anywhere in life without being known as the son of Fred Smith, founder and CEO of FedEx? Probably not.
I don't know, man.
Art's a pretty low-key guy.
He's done as good of a job as you could possibly do.
If you had to pick somebody to do this like the way that everybody else would want it done, it would be Arthur Smith. He is pretty
and Smith
not interested in the glory of it.
And the last name Smith, it's like you're not connecting those dots unless you know that Arthur Smith is the son of Fred Smith by some other way. Like, you don't see the name Smith and think, "Oh, I bet you that's the FedEx." But like, that's not something you instantly recognize.
Sure. So let's say, as a pro sports organization, though, in today's environment, do you have to capitulate to players like this? Because think about Tom Brady. Tom Brady took control of his situation. Why? For a variety of different reasons, but one of them is because Bill Belichick wouldn't let Tom Brady's health guru, this Guerrero guy, Alex Guerrero, the doctor that's not a doctor, Brady wanted him on the sidelines. Belichick wouldn't let him. Brady, it was a one of the things on a list of things that Tom Brady was tired of with the Patriots. He immediately takes all of the things with him to Tampa Bay.
I don't
want to
hear these charges, people talking about nepotism.
No,
I swear I didn't click anything. That just did it on its own.
Sure.
I was over here.
You left a pot up, though. Lesson learned.
He asked for it and just didn't go to it for 3 minutes.
I'm busy doing a radio show. I would like your help. Thank you.
What do you have to say for yourself?
My point is...
It's okay, Jackson.
That players have some power now, some degree of control. Caleb Williams at least his father, was already messaging that they would like some degree of control. Do you have to capitulate to that? Absolutely not. It's as ridiculous as the joke that we've been playing all week, which is that the Grizzlies spit in the face of Vols fans by passing on Dalton Knecht and drafting Zach Edey, even though I hate them. I hate them for drafting Zach Edey. I hate them to my core.
I love the image of them like rubbing their hands together in the war room, like, oh, they're going to hate this.
Well, no, that's definitely happening in the EA Sports war room where they're rubbing their hands together, getting ready for all the Vol Twitter engagement.
But it is so far and few between in the NFL, right? Like Tom Brady in Tampa, not in New England, very famously. He had
left New England and left, devastating what happened in Brady's wake.
Yeah, took control of the situation in Tampa, or was a big part of it, and they got a Super Bowl out of it.
Yes.
It's happening with Aaron Rodgers, yes, without question. But where else can you really...
Players have tried.
Yeah.
Lev Bell. Lev Bell is one of the most famous failed player power flexes that I've ever seen.
You think if Pat Mahomes was in charge, the Chiefs would have had the receiver core they had last year?
I think if Pat wanted to be more like that, he absolutely could be. And
Probably.
Brady was a good soldier for a long, long time, right? Tom Brady consistently underpaid. Now they found ways to get him the money in different ways. But what they are, so think about this, okay? And this is an example that I'm going to use, but I need the audience to hear me when I use this and say it is just an example of a player using his power and platform to get the league to do something. The NFL never apologized for what many believed to be blackballing Colin Kaepernick until Patrick Mahomes and a bunch of other players got on a Twitter compilation and made Roger Goodell get in front of a camera and apologize outwardly for the situation with Kaepernick. Now, I know that name is polarizing. Do not call me and tell me that this person hates our country and all these other things. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to have that conversation anymore. It's done, okay? We've moved on. But that is an example of player power. Roger Goodell having to sit down in what I believe to be his fake basement, in his fake recliner, and giving a message, apologizing to his workforce that is 70% African American about the way that the situation with Colin Kaepernick was handled.
Why is the basement fake? Like it's a TV set?
I think it's a set. I think it's like a lunar landing. I don't think that was real. I don't believe Roger Goodell's basement at $45 million a year does not look like my grandmother's basement. I'm sorry. It doesn't. It just doesn't. That's not a real basement. Oh, actually, can I get some reckless speculation on that, please? That's not a real basement.
So to I guess, appeal more to the everyman, Roger Goodell had a TV set in the manner of just a regular basement and not whatever palatial situation he probably has as the commissioner.
Nobody making $45 million a year has a basement that looks like that. I'm sorry. It's not true. It's fake. It's real. We got you.
It's fiction.
I just imagine them having to bulldoze the moon landing set to put up Roger Goodell's basement. And
it hadn't been used. It's a warehouse that's been abandoned since the, when did the lunar landing happen? In the 70s? 80s?
1969.
Okay. I should know that. It's my birthday. But I also would like to picture that in my head. Just an empty space that's had the lunar landing set for 50 plus years, and then they clear it out to just put Goodell's COVID basement in.
Roger Goodell just walks by like all the spacesuits. Decides to put one on for like the 6th round.
He's just waiting for them to do the set change or whatever. He's trying on the astronaut costumes that are left over. That's how I imagine that COVID draft went. My point being, I think fans kind of balk at the player empowerment stuff because there are different layers to it, right? There's players taking control of their economic situation. There's players taking control of their workplace environment or trying to. There's players demanding social action, the way that Patrick Mahomes and, for whatever you think of him now, Deshaun Watson was a part of that, Honey Badger. There was a bunch of different athletes in that video that forced Roger Goodell to get in front of a camera and apologize. But I don't know where that list stops and if it stops with the LeBron James, Tom Brady's of the world. But the nepotism charge, it doesn't faze me. Nepotism is all over professional sports.
But not like this, man. Like, it's different.
Like this?
Yes, not like this. Dean P's bringing his son
the example
to be an assistant. That's the first example that you brought up.
What are the Lakers if not the embodiment of nepotism?
Oh, this is nepotism. Yes, I'm saying that you saying obviously it's commonplace in every industry.
Yes.
But we don't see it in sports like this. A second-round pick
What does a second round pick mean? A second round pick doesn't mean anything. A second round pick, Lucas.
This is not bringing your son to be an assistant of an assistant coach along somewhere in the building. Like, this is not that.
No.
This is draft capital.
It's having an organization that the dad tried to give it to the two sons who aren't any good at their jobs and then finally gave it to the daughter that's competent, that's seemingly competent. It's a family-run business. There is no greater symbol in American sports to nepotism than the Los Angeles Lakers.
Sure, like sports ownership, that's just how that works, right?
No, but I'm not
you own
talking
a business that
Lucas,
you pass down.
that bleeds into everything. If you don't think that owners at every level, that there has not been some, and can I have some reckless speculation again, please? I guarantee you there's a damn cousin of the Adam Strunk family wandering around, or has been wandering around somewhere in the facility doing some job that somebody was probably more qualified for. And I'm not taking a shot at the Titans ownership. I'm saying that it's rampant everywhere. It happens at every level of sports.
It does.
You just know more about this one because it's the most famous player in basketball, and he's an easy person to get outraged
We don't
about.
see it impact player personnel this way. We just don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Giannis's cousin is chilling on the bench. He doesn't play at all because Giannis wanted his cousin to have a contract.
How did they? Okay, how was Giannis?
Isn't it a wait? It's a brother.
His
Isn't it
brother?
a brother?
How was his brother acquired?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Would love to see the content of his contract.
You are assigning some kind of value to a second round pick that the NBA does not assign.
It is only one of 2 draft picks. They only had 2 draft picks.
You can absolutely get a productive player out of a second-round draft pick.
Sure, you can, but
like
the
that is
chance
insane.
that you get a quality starting player out of a second-round draft pick in the NBA is slim to none.
Like most people are saying, not me, because I think Bronny is an elite athlete and it was a good pick, but most people are saying that it is insane to spend a second-round pick in order to have your star, the face of your franchise, be able to play with his son rather than get a potentially productive player that can help your team win games. It's insanity.
Is it more important to have that player happy than the second round pick that may or may not work out?
And that's the conversation. And that's what worked with Brady, right? That it was important for Tom Brady, but it didn't bleed into NFL draft decisions. Like,
do you think he didn't have some input in Tampa Bay's drafting decisions?
Yeah, but it wasn't his son or his brother,
His son's not old enough to play. If you'd have given Tom Brady the option to throw passes to his kid as a wide receiver, I bet you he would have taken it.
You know what type of stuff Brady was doing? Bring Gronk with me. Yeah, Gronk's still one of the best tight ends in football, so that helped them win games.
Not at that point. He'd been retired for a couple of years. Gronk,
he was a Super Bowl MVP,
Tampa Gronk is not the same.
He wasn't the MVP, but he easily could have been.
I understand what you're saying. Tampa Gronk is not the same as Patriots Gronk. But my point is, Lucas, this happens all the time for players that are less important than LeBron, and the only reason you're getting bent out of shape about it is because it's the only thing happening in sports right now.
Trying to figure out how Giannis's brother was acquired by the Milwaukee Bucks.
There's a bunch of examples out there. Like what's former guard for the Heat. He's
they signed
Eastern
him from
European.
Greece. Just like absolutely. They signed him from Greece. But to me, second round pick, it
doesn't mean anything.
It's different.
I want you to go through last year's second round picks and tell me how many of them actually made it in the NBA and are playing already in Europe. 615-737-1045 is. You going to do this bit all year?
See how long I can make it last.
Okay. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls if you got them. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Great show, great week of shows. Great to hang out with each and every one of you. Thank you for letting us idiots be a part of your life, Monday through Friday. And wherever you listen to us via podcast, if you rewatch the YouTube channel, thank you for your patience. We appreciate you. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls for the week. But if you don't get in with us, remember that you can catch Titans legend Blaine Bishop from 1 to 3 coming up after this, and then 3HL on after that. Let's start with Alex, who's in sales.
Hey, guys. 2 quick points on the James family nepotism thing. First and foremost, this country was built on nepotism, right? I mean, that's how this country was built. It's all about giving somebody the opportunity. What they do with it is on them. Now, the modern age has screwed up that concept by favoring the person in the nepotism relationship. So nepotism in itself isn't the issue. How, if LeBron steps in with how Bronny is treated or how Bronny is coached, that's where it becomes an issue. And as far as should LeBron be able to make that call, in any business, sports or otherwise, it's a meritocracy. Your best players, your best producers get to ask for more. You, as a company, as an organization, you have to keep your best producers happy or they will leave. And part of that in professional sports is letting them bring in their special trainers, letting them bring in players, whether it's their son or something like that. So, again, that's how it works.
That's a minute on the clock, Alex. That's why you hear the Oscars music, but we do appreciate you. 60 seconds is what we allow for to try and make the point so we can keep it moving. But I get what he's saying. That's a very well-made point by Alex. The idea that the nepotism has shifted to favoring those people who are in the most advantageous positions, and not just that, but taking all of the opportunities as opposed to just taking an opportunity here and there. Kyle will be our last phone call of the week. Hey, buddy. What's up?
I got y'all a great case of sports nepotism, and I think Lucas can back me up on this. Lance Stroll has to be the worst case of sports nepotism of all time. The man's a pathetic F1 driver, and the only reason he stays in his seat is because his dad owns the company.
Lucas, you concur?
Yes. Yes.
That's the most egregious one?
His father is a part owner of Aston Martin, and Lance Stroll drives for Aston Martin. Yes. No, that may be one of the more egregious in world sports.
Just
100%.
Anywhere in the world.
It's a great submission by Kyle.
All right, let's do some polls. I think I want.
The polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What's the most positive story you've seen in sports this week? Anthony says LeBron getting to play with his son.
I think there is some wholesome elements to it once you get past the rampant and blatant nepotism.
Kenneth says it's low-hanging fruit, but the Vols winning the college baseball title, the genuine excitement from fans of all ages. Goody says for his Friday Fire, Zach Edey getting drafted by the Grizzlies to continue to give Buck PTS for what he did to Indiana basketball. What is PTS? He must have meant BTS, but what would he be talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, Goody. You got to figure out your acronym there.
Do better.
Nick is saying John Wilkerson's final call of the College World Series finals for the Vols, and a lot of Vols. A lot of Vols comments.
Understandably so. Big week for the Vols. Congratulations to Tennessee fans. I know it's been since Tuesday, but you are still national champions.
Do you agree with the Preds giving UC Saros an 8-year extension? 62% say nope.
I do think what Alex Daugherty of the Tennessean had to say about that is relevant. It's just because this season was particularly one of his poorer seasons. I won't say it's particularly poor because he was still a better than average goaltender, but it wasn't his best season. And to see an 8-year deal when all you've heard as a Preds fan is that there's this dude and this monster in Milwaukee in net who maybe has a bit of an attitude problem but is still a really high-level prospect, the 8 years, I think, is the sticking point off the one down year that he's had.
How much power should a team's best player have in franchise decision-making? Sue-Ann says, wasn't that Rodgers' big beef with his previous franchise? Eldon says, power, 0%. It doesn't mean they shouldn't be asked or the opinion taken into consideration by people that have the power.
I'm inclined to agree. There is a very, very exclusive class of athlete that should have legitimate power over what the organization does. And even then, I think you could see some pretty obvious drawbacks.
Scott says none. Owners own, players play, managers manage, employees and players get a paycheck, not a seat at the board meetings.
Yeah, I don't know what that person does for a living, but don't you want to be pro-employee? Like, wouldn't you rather be pro-employee over pro-management? Even if that is the typical construct, why do things have to be typical, especially in sports where everything is atypical?
It's too hard and fast to just say, coaches coach, players play. Like Brian Callahan. How much does Brian Callahan talk about wanting to get feet? His job is to put players in the best position to succeed. Their opinion on things, their feedback matters in order to be able to do that.
That comment has never been less true than it is in right now, the current state of American sports.
Who is the least talked about Titans player of the offseason? Sue-Ann agrees with Jackson. She says the backup quarterback, Mason Rudolph. Anthony says Ryan Stonehouse. I miss him.
I mean, he's out there. He's doing stuff, but what else am I going to do with the punter when I say, hey, is he ready to punt? And they say no. And I say, okay.
Corey says Morgan Cox, the long snapper. Jacob says Harold Landry. Kevin says Tony Pollard's been swept under the rug a little bit.
No,
Eldon
that's
says
just
Nick
Titans.
Folk.
Titans fans are trying to manifest Tajay Spears as running back one indisputably, and I think that's a bit silly given that Tony Pollard is making $7 million a year.
Kenneth says Peter Skoronski, a Carthon first-round pick that needs to make a jump and help out Latham, barely discussed. We've talked a decent amount.
No, we have done more guard talk than I ever want to do in my life.
Yes. What is... Oh, I lost my place. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. What is the most appropriate place to argue about golf handicaps? Office break rooms, golf clubs, at a bar with friends, or presidential debates? 58.5% of the audience say presidential debates. Lucky for them. That's what we got last night. 26.3% say at a bar with friends. 12% say golf clubs. 3% say office break rooms. Presidential debates by a landslide.
By a landslide. I still... Understanding that happened, that was a real event that took place, the idea that is the representation that our country has on an international stage makes me want to punch myself in the throat.
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. So while I'm punching myself in the throat, you guys have a tremendous weekend. We can't wait to get back in this thing and wrap it up on a short July 4th week for you, but we've got some pretty cool stuff, pretty fun stuff planned. Bert's got some games that he's trying to bring to the table. I don't know where he is. He apparently ditched out on us this week, so we have to save it for 4th of July. But like I said, have a great rest of your weekend. Blaine Bishop, he's next.